This is going to be my Cyber Dragon deck that I'm currently running here. So the cards we're going to be using are pretty much all going to be Cyber Dragons. There's a few other in here that are not, and I'll explain their usage. And there's a couple cards I have in here that are probably not optimal, but just when the perfect storm happens and they're able to get off, it's just really fun. So I've added those just because occasionally it's fun to do something cool, even if it's really rare that happens. Starting off, we've got our Cyber Dragon Hers, and with all Cyber Dragon that I have in this deck that aren't Cyber Dragon plain as in the name there, they're going to have the same effect here, and that's this card's name becomes Cyber Dragon while in the field or the graveyard. And most of them will say you can only use the effect of one of these cards per turn. And if this card is special summoned, you can make this card's level become level 5 until the end of this turn. Also, you cannot special summon monsters other than machine monsters, which my entire deck is, so that last part doesn't really ever come into effect. The main thing you're going to be using this for is going to be if this card is sent to the graveyard, you can add one other Cyber Dragon in quotation marks. So any card that has Cyber Dragon in the name, you'll be able to pull that out of your deck and into your hand. That's a good way to get specific cards you might need for a specific combo. The first part of this effect, become level 5. You do occasionally use that, but more often than not, it's this second part here. But that level 5 is good for XYZ summon. That's when that'll come into effect. Moving on, we're going to have a Cyber Pharaohs. This card's not super utilized, but it does come in handy occasionally with the effect. You can special summon this card from your hand by triggering one machine monster. Once per turn during your main phase, you can fusion summon one machine fusion monster from your extra deck using monsters from your hand, field, or material. When a fusion monster you control is destroyed by battle, you can banish this card from the graveyard, add one power bond from your deck to your hand, and you can only use it once per turn. So that's a good way to get a power bond if you need to just sack this guy out and get that power bond, or occasionally using him to fusion summon. And the fact that you can get him into the play field without using up one of your summons that turn by tributing a monster does come into play occasionally. Then we have Cyber Dragon Gnasher. This guy is probably one of your most used cards in this deck. Same with all Cyber Dragons. He's a Cyber Dragon while in the field or graveyard. If this card is normal, especially summoned, you can target one machine monster with 2100 attack or defense in your graveyard. Special summon it. Also, you cannot special summon other than monsters for the rest of the turn, except machine monsters. Same with most of these card effects. And once per turn for the Gnasher. So if you got a Cyber Dragon in your graveyard who has 2100 attack, or any of your fusion monsters that might have specifically 2100 attack or defense, Gnasher, you can summon him or special summon, and with the discard option, and then immediately get the card back. So that's what I'll do most of the time is I'll special summon Gnasher by sending a Cyber Dragon to the graveyard, and then Gnasher immediately brings that Cyber Dragon back to the field, giving me two technical Cyber Dragons on the field for other uses. Then we're going to have a Max C. During either player's turn, you can send this card from your hand to the graveyard. This turn, each time your opponent special summons a monster, immediately draw one card. This is just more of an occasional use card. It's going to be one that you just play from your hand. If you see your opponent's about to do a big combo, try to get a little bit more draw power. Then a Cyber Dragon Core. If this card is normal summoned, add one cyber spell or trap from your deck to your hand. If only your opponent controls a monster, you can banish this card from your graveyard, special summon one Cyber Dragon monster from your deck. So usually what I'll use this guy for is I'll summon him and get one of my Cyber Dragon spell cards. Usually going to be a Cyber Emergency or something like that. And then if he's in the graveyard and your opponent special summons, you can use him to get a Cyber Dragon from your deck. So that does come in handy sometimes. Then we're going to be running the standard Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring just as the hand traps. I think everybody knows how these work. Cyber Dragon Dre. You can make all Cyber Dragons you currently control become level 5. If this card is banished, you can target one Cyber Dragon you control. It cannot be destroyed by battle or card effect this turn. Occasionally in a blue moon you will use that last effect, but the main thing is using this first part that makes all current Cyber Dragons on the field become level 5, and we use that for XYZ summons. And from there we go on to Cyber Dragon Ver. What this guy does is when you summon a monster, normal special summon a Cyber Dragon monster, except during the damage step, you can special summon this from your hand into defense mode. So that's a quick way to get two monsters out on one turn there. And if you special summon them with Cyber Dragon Dree, Dree's effect will apply after Ver's effect, so they'll both be level 5, and you can immediately XYZ summon right then and there. And then we've got our Cyber Dragons. Additionally, this guy's effect adds 500 attack and defense to Cyber Dragons. That's not that big a deal. Cyber Dragons, just the standard one. This is what all the card effects, pretty much everything in this deck is built around using cards with the name Cyber Dragon. This guy's effect is you can special summon him from your hand if your opponent has a monster and you have none. So that's a pretty handy thing right there. And his attack 2100, defense 1600. That's a pretty good attack, and with how easy he is to get out, and we have numerous ways to buff that even further. I have a Cyber Eltonin, hard to say there. This card's attack and defense becomes the number of monsters banished for its special summon times 500. If this is special summon, send all their face-up monster cards on the field to the graveyard. And the way you get this out is he's going to take all your light machine monsters from your graveyard and banish them. And then gain 500 damage for each one banished that way. I only run one of these. He's nice to have. He does come in handy occasionally. He's a good way to field wipe your opponent or just to get monsters into the banish zone, which we do utilize. And he ends up having a pretty good attack there. So no defense, so you don't want to put him in defense mode. If you're going to summon him, make sure you got enough to have enough damage that he's not going to just be detrimental. Or if you're using him to field wipe your opponent's monsters. Then we're going to have Jizu Kiru, the Star Destroyer. Now he's going to be the only monster, I believe, other than the Ash Blossoms and the Max C that's not Cyber Dragon. His purpose is to get rid of troublesome cards on your opponent's side. So he's a Kaiju, meaning when you summon him, you can tribute your opponent's monster, and he gets the Kaiju here. So when the card effects have one card, another effect, you can remove 3 Kaiju counters. Yeah, we're not using Kaiju counters, so his effect's doesn't ever come into play in this deck, but you can special summon this card from your hand to your opponent's field in attack position by tributing one monster they control. If your opponent controls a Kaiju monster, you can special summon this card from your hand in attack position on your side. I've never run into a situation where they've had Kaijus and I've got to just free summon this guy. More often than not, you give it to your opponent to get rid of something that you're having trouble dealing with. He's got 3,300 attack and 2,600 defense. He's a pretty strong monster. However, we really don't ever have to deal with him, because if we end up summoning this guy to get rid of one of our opponent's cards, all we need is a single Cyber Dragon on our side of the field, and then we're going to use Chimeratech Fortress Dragon to get rid of him, because this needs a Cyber Dragon and one or more machine monsters, and we can just use fusion material from either side of the field. So we'll use the Jizakira that we just summoned on the opponent's side to fusion summon the Chimeratech Over Dragon back under our side and just deal with it. So that's a good way to deal with anything that's got they can't be damaged or you can't attack them, because most troublesome cards can be tributed. So you just tribute them and get them out of the way. So that's why we do run 3 of these, just to make sure we have one in our hand for the situation that needs it. And worst case, these guys pretty easy to destroy in other ways. Even if we can't use him as fusion material or get him away in other ways, his effect isn't a threat to us. So there's a lot less to worry about if we're getting rid of something that's really scary. We're going to run 1 Harpy Feather Duster just to destroy spells and traps, because this deck is pretty susceptible to spells and traps. We do end up getting a lot of monsters out with a lot of attacks, so any kind of reflect or something like that can be pretty damaging. I'm going to run 1 Machine Duplication. Target 1 machine monster you control with 500 or less attack. Special summon up to 2 monsters from your deck with the same name as that face-up monster. We've got 2 Power Bonds. fusion summon one machine fusion monster from your extra deck using monsters from your hand or field as fusion material, and it gains attack equal to the original attack. So it doubles the attack power. The downside is during the end phase of this turn's card effect, you will take damage equal to the amount of attack gained from this effect. So that can damage you quite a big chunk, but getting double damage on the current monster is a lot of times a way to just end the game right then and there. So power bonds are pretty useful. Moving on, we have an overload fusion. Fusion summon one dark fusion monster from your extra deck by banishing fusion materials listed on it from your field or graveyard. So I'll show you my fusion material monsters in a minute. I don't really use this card this much. I use it in conjunction with another card that's coming up, and I'll explain that combo there. It's pretty rare to happen, but it's really fun when you do get the combo off. More often than not, you're just going to summon one of the other monsters we've got in the fusion deck to just, usually in the game or nothing too crazy. We're gonna have a cyber emergency. I believe I have two of these. Yeah, two cyber emergencies. Add one light machine monster that cannot be normal special summoned, or one cyber dragon monster from your deck to your hand. If you activate the card in this opponent's possession was negated by the opponent's card effect, send to your graveyard. You can discard one card, add this card to your hand. What I'll use this for is just to pick out a specific cyber dragon from my deck. So whatever other cards I have in my hand, I'll look at what I got and see what kind of combo I want to go with, and then I could use a cyber emergency to complete that combo. Because there's a lot of different routes we can go with this deck. I'm gonna have one cyber rev system. Special summon one cyber dragon from your hand or graveyard. Cannot be destroyed by card effects. So that's a good way to get into the cyber dragon from your graveyard or your deck onto the field. If they're in the graveyard, every one of my cards counts as cyber dragon, other than the kaijus and the Ashen Blossom. So you can pretty much just pick your poison of what you need. If it's in the deck, it's got to be the actual cyber dragon. I've got a lightning storm. That's just going to be another way to destroy all spell and traps for the most part. We can also destroy all attack position monster your opponent controls, so that's also a good way to just field wipe a lot of cards if we need. Now we're gonna skip that one just for now. I'm gonna have cyber load fusions. Now this one is gonna allow me to fusion summon by using material either on my field and or face up banished cards. But you cannot attack this turn with any other monsters other than the one you summoned with this. Yeah, so you can use cards on your field or any of your banished cards. So we do have a number of ways to get cards into our banished zone, and that's where the Cyberload Fusion comes into play. Is we can pull those from our banished zone and fusion summon a monster and put those cards back into our deck. So I do run two of those. Usually that's how we'll either use Overload Fusion to get them in the banished zone, or the Cyber Elton, and then we'll use Cyberload Fusion to more often than not get a Chimeritic Rampage is what we tend to shoot for with that. I'm gonna have one Infinite Impermanence. There we go. Bit hard to say. Target one face-up monster your opponent controls, can negate its effect. Then if this card was set before activation, is on the field at resolution for the rest of this turn, all other spell and trap effects in this column are negated. If you control a card, you cannot activate this card from your hand. So that's a good way if you're not able to destroy the monster or the spell or trap that they've got down. It's a good way you can set up and negate it the next turn. Or if you want to use this as a hand trap, you negate a monster's ability that turn. And so that could be a good way if they've got an ability that's stopping you from just outright killing them or finishing the game. You can use that. I do run two of those. And then lastly, on our traps here, we've got a Cybernetic Overflow. Banish cyber dragons with different levels from your hand, face, field, or graveyard, then destroy an equal number of cards your opponent controls. If this card is on the field destroyed by a card effect, add one cyber spell trap from your deck to your hand. You can only use one per turn. So that's another way to get cards into your banish zone and let you take out specific cards of your opponent if you need to. Now, moving on down to the extra deck. The card you're going to be using most of the time is going to be this one here, and then Cyber Dragon Seeger. So Chimeric Rampage Dragon needs 2 Cyber Dragon monsters, and all these cards in our deck have Cyber Dragon in the name. They can be used to fusion summon him even if they're in the banish zone. So 2 plus Cyber Dragon monsters. Usually you just want to use 2, but you can use the more cards you use to fusion summon him activates his effect more. So sometimes you do want to use 2, just 2, or 3 or 4 depending on what's going on. Fusion summon of this card can only be done with the above fusion material monsters. So he has to have Cyber Dragon in the name to use as materials. When this card is fusion summoned, you target spell or traps on the field up to the number of fusions used in its fusion to summon to destroy them. So that first effect is a good way to get rid of spells, traps, and things like that. And that's where you'd be like, if you've got 3 traps you just want to get rid of, you use three Cyber Dragons to target all 3 of those cards and get rid of them. And one thing to keep in mind when it asks you if you want to destroy another card, if you've got spells or traps down on the field, and the opponent doesn't, but you accidentally said, yes, I want to destroy another one, it will force you to destroy one of your own. So just a bit of a quirk of the game there. So keep that in mind. If the opponent doesn't have any cards to destroy, make sure you say no. And then the secondary effect, which makes this card really good, is once per turn you can send up to 2 light machine monsters from your deck to your graveyard. If you do, for each monster sent to the graveyard, this card gives 1 additional attack during each battle phase this turn. So that's huge. Not only do we get cards in the graveyard, which we can still use through several of our effects on the other cards, we're also able to attack multiple times. So this guy can get up to 3 attacks per turn. With 2100 attack, that's pretty big, and a lot of times that can end the game in 1 turn, especially if we're utilizing this with Seeger. That's pretty much a guaranteed game over for the opponent if he doesn't have any way to stop us. So we'll go ahead and look at Seeger real quick. Cyber Dragon Seeger needs 2 machine monsters, including at least 1 Cyber Dragon. And during each battle phase, if this card has not declared an attack, he has a quick effect of you can target 1 machine monster you control with 2100 or more attack. For the rest of this turn, that monster gains 2100 attack and defense. Also, neither player takes any battle damage from attacks involving this monster. You can only use this effect of Cyber Dragon Seeger once per turn. So that wording is a bit confusing there. So when Cyber Dragon Seeger activates his effect, he does not do battle damage. But if you apply his effect to another card, for instance, Chimeric or Rampage Dragon, Chimeric or Rampage still does damage to the opponent. It's just Cyber Dragon Seeger that does no damage. So you use Cyber Dragon's effect during the battle phase to add an additional 2100 attack to the Chimeric Rampage here. So he'll have 4200 attack, and up to 3 attacks. That's a game over right there. Additionally, a lot of people don't read their card effects, so they'll attack Cyber Dragon Seeger during their battle phase, but you can immediately apply Cyber Dragon Seeger's effect to himself during the opponent's battle phase. So he'll go from 2100 to 4200 during the opponent's attack, and if the opponent doesn't have enough attack, he'll die, or if he still kills Cyber Dragon Seeger because he's just got insane attack, it nullifies the damage you would have taken anyway. So I definitely always try to get a Cyber Dragon Seeger out because he's great value for what he does. And then we run 1 Cyber Twin Dragon. He doesn't come into play too much, but he's good situational. He needs 2 Cyber Dragon monsters, and then he just has 2800 attack and can attack twice. One combo I do utilize for him more often than not where you use this guy is during your battle phase. You'll attack, and if you don't have enough damage to kill the opponent and you happen to have a Cyber Load Fusion and enough materials either in the banish zone or on your field, you can activate Cyber Load Fusion as a quick effect. If you do that, you can during your battle phase use Cyber Load Fusion, summon Cyber Twin Dragon, and then Cyber Twin can attack twice. So that's an additional 5,000, more than 5,000 damage there. I believe it's, what, 5,600 damage? Yeah. So that's a lot of times enough to finish the game then. Then we already looked at Compare Attack Fortress Dragon and why we have him. And we're going to skip that one for now. We have a Cyber End Dragon. Cyber Dragon, Cyber Dragon, Cyber Dragon. So 3 Cyber Dragon monsters. And this guy, his big benefit is he does pierce damage. So whenever I utilize them, it's usually they've got a strong defense monster, or I need to just pierce through defense. 4,000 attack is pretty big, but a lot of my monsters have less attack, but they attack multiple times, so more often than not, I'll go for them over a Cyber End Dragon. But if I need to just punch through, if they've got a defensive monster that I can't kill for some reason, you know, it's one of those that doesn't die from battle or something, I can use Cyber End Dragon and just pierce through them and start hitting those life points. Then we have Chimeratech Mega Fleet Dragon. This is a Cyber Dragon monster plus 1 monster in the extra monster zone. So whenever I utilize this, I fusion summon this guy to get rid of the opponent's, you know, either they've got an XYZ there or a Link monster or something, just something that looks a little scary to me. I could just fusion summon this guy using their materials, or their monster as materials. And he'll gain 1,200 attack for each monster used that way. So he will just usually end up being 2,400 attack. And I believe, it's a special, it's considered special summon from your extra deck, so you don't actually need any special method to fusion summon them on the other cards. You just have the materials on the field and you summon him. Then we've got a Cyber Dragon Nova. This needs 2 level 5 machine monsters. That's what we'll usually do if we get like a Cyber Dragon Dree and a Veer combo going. Then once per turn, you can attach 1 material from this card, target 1 Cyber Dragon in your graveyard, special summon that target. And so that's a good way to get a Cyber Dragon from your graveyard back onto the field. Then, so if we use the Cyber Dragon as his materials, we can detach to the graveyard and then immediately use it to summon. However, we can't detach if there's not another Cyber Dragon in the graveyard to begin with, so just keep that in mind. And then once per turn, quick effect, you can banish 1 Cyber Dragon from your hand or face up on your monster zone. This card gains 2,100 attack until the end of this turn. If this card is in your possession, is sent to the graveyard by your opponent's card effect, you get special summon 1 machine fusion monster from your extra deck. So if they've used a trap or something to kill this card, it's a good way to get a Cyber End Dragon or another Chimeratech just immediately out. But more often than not, that never happens, because once we get Cyber Dragon Nova out, we just immediately then, you know, if you got a Cyber Dragon in your graveyard, you might use his first effect to get him onto the field. But after that, you're gonna just immediately go right into Cyber Dragon Infinity, which needs either 3 level 6 light machine monsters, but we never do it that way, because once per turn, you can also XYZ summon Cyber Dragon Infinity by using Cyber Dragon Nova you control as material. So if we get the Nova out, we can just immediately get the Infinity out. This card gains 200 attack for each material attached to it. Once per turn, you can target, and this is going to be the main effect we use it for. Once per turn, you can target 1 face-up attack position monster on the field. And if don't activate this effect if your opponent's in defense mode, or you'll be forced to take out one of your own cards. But if they are face-up in attack position, attach it to this card as material. So that's a good way to just erase your opponent's strong monsters if they're in attack position. And then once per turn, when this card effect is activated, it is a quick effect. You can attach 1 material from this card and negate it activation. If you do, destroy it. He can negate his own effects, so do be careful about that, not to activate that on yourself. That's just another quirk of the game with how some of these effects work. But you'll use that to negate your opponent's abilities a lot of times, or they'll like throw a trap down to try and get get this monster out of here and you can negate the spell and effect. It is once per turn, so sometimes you need to be a little strategic when you activate that. But having a Cyber Dragon Infinity out is really helpful. Then we're going to run one Divine Arsenal AA Zeus. I don't use him all that much, but when you do use him, he's, he does come into play. Once per turn, if an XYZ monster battled this turn, you can also XYZ summon Divine Arsenal AA Zeus Sky Thunder by using one XYZ monster you control as material. Transfers materials to this card. Quick effect, you can attach 2 materials from this card, send all other cards from the field to the graveyard. Once per turn, if another card you control is destroyed by battle or an opponent's card effect, you can attach 1 card from your hand, deck, or extra deck to this card as material. So basically, we get him out, like if we've attacked with Cyber Dragon Infinity and they've still got a lot of cards that I just don't want to deal with, I'll move right into Divine Arsenal Zeus and use it to field wipe there. Usually what I'll do is I'll if I'm not going to keep Cyber Dragon Infinity, like he's not got enough cards or the opponent has something I just don't want to deal with, I'll move right into Zeus. And then on the opponent's turn, I'll maybe time it out a bit to see what he's going to do, but then just use it to clear the field. But if there's not anything crazy to deal with, or I don't really feel the need to field wipe, I'll keep Cyber Dragon Infinity because he's great value with his effect, his 2 effects, being able to nullify an effect or being able to just immediately suck up a attack position monster. Then I have Relinquish Anima. This needs a level 1 monster except a token, so it's going to be our Hertz or our Nasher here. I believe the core can work too. Target 1 face-up monster this card points to. Equip that face-up monster to this card. You can only use his effect once per turn. This card gains attack equal to that equipped monster's. And he does point straight, so there's going to be 2 spots on the field where this comes into effect. But basically, if the opponent has something in those slots, and I just don't think I can deal with it any other way, this is a good way to take out those monsters. So if you are playing against the Cyber Dragon deck or other decks, I would always suggest put monsters in those 2 special zone sections last, just to avoid effects like this guy. Then we already looked at our Cyber Dragon Seeger. He's going to be something you want to get out as soon as you can. He's just great value for what he does. And then we're going to have our Prediplant Verta Anaconda. I'm sure a lot of you know what this guy does. The big effect here is you can pay 2,000 life points, send 1 fusion or polymerization, normal or quick play spell from your deck to the graveyard. This effect becomes that spell's effect when this card is activated. Also, you cannot special summon monsters for the rest of this turn. So when you use this guy, you do lock into only using his effect, so you can't do any other combos, but it's a good way to turn this guy. These 2 effect monsters, so all my cards are effect monsters. So all I need is just 2 of them out on the field, and then I can go into a Verta and immediately make him into, he can become a power bond. I more than often than not going to use him as a power bond or maybe an overload fusion. He can also become a cyberload fusion here. But that's just an easy way to guarantee a fusion summon to, if I get Chimera Tech Rampage Dragon out Wally's power bond, using that as a power bond, this guy's got 4,200 attack, and then I use his effect to get 3 attacks, and that's pretty much game over for the most part, unless the opponent has some way to stop me from attacking. And lastly, we're going to look at our little combo here that I do really love doing. I just don't do it all that often because it's pretty hard to set up with how they've changed cards over the years. But we have a fusion summon, and usually when I get fusion summon, I could put what I'll do is I'll select my Comparative Tech Rampage Dragon as my fusion summon, just in case fusion summon ends up activating for some reason, because the combo we're doing ends up never actually utilizing fusion summon. We just use it for the setup here. But that's why I tech Chimera Tech Rampage Dragon, in case something happens. The opponent nullifies the other fusion summon we're going for, and then we're stuck with having to have our Chimera Tech Rampage. Because if this goes off and actually executes, this only keeps the fusion summon on the field while this is also on the field, and our field gets wiped with our other fusion summon, which would immediately kill it. So we don't want this to actually activate with the card we want to summon. But what we use this for is to basically mill our entire deck. So during your first standby phase after this card's activation, show one fusion monster in your extra deck and send fusion materials listed on it from your main deck to the graveyard. During your second standby phase after this card's activation, fusion summon one fusion monster from the extra deck with the same name as the monster you showed and target it with this card. When this card leaves the field, destroy the target. When this target is destroyed, destroy this card. So as you can see, when this card's off the field, the summon is gone as well. And the reason we do use Chimeritic Rampage Dragon is because not only is it good if we do end up getting him out here, we can use him, but we can use every one of our Cyber Dragons in our deck. And that's what we're going to do. Since this is 2+ Cyber Dragons, we use all of them. So we fusion summon this guy, or we play the future fusion, select our Chimeritic Rampage Dragon, and then on our next turn, we will send every one of our cards into our deck into the graveyard that have Cyber Dragon. That's going to be 3, 6. This guy I do not believe counts. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. We can use Cyber Enlighten, I believe, maybe. I don't remember, but we don't want to. This is going to be our backup in case we need to take all those monsters from our graveyard and use them in a second way. So this is our second way to use that. See, because with all those monsters, he'll have quite a bit of attack here. So the Cyber Eltonin has the same effect of what we're about to do, but it's a little bit less. So that's why we don't utilize more Cyber Eltonins for this method. And what we are going to use is our boy here, Chimeritic Overdragon, which needs a Cyber Dragon and 1+ machine monsters. And his effect is going to be similar to Eltonin's, but his is 800. So each monster used to fusion summon gives him 800 attack. And this card attacks your opponent monster the number of times each battle phase up to the number of fusion material monsters. So if for some reason you don't have enough attack, he's going to have crazy attack. Easily getting insane numbers here on his damage. But if that's not enough to kill your opponent and he's got 2 monsters in attack position, you can attack, how many ever times you use it's we took the time to count, but I didn't remember it here. But anyway, but his main drawback here is going to be if this card, when you summon this guy, send all other cards you control to the graveyard. So anything you have on your field does get cleared off, which is why we don't want to summon him straight up with the future fusion. We want to utilize either the overload fusion here for the most part. Since Overload will let us use our fusions from our graveyard. And I believe we can do Cyber Eltonin to get it to the banish zone and use Cyberload fusion. So you can also do it that way to mill all your cards back into your deck. But that's a really fun combo. It's awesome to see those huge numbers. Just don't get Magic Cylinder, that'll not be fun. It's still hilarious, and whenever I get the combo off, I always just go for it. It doesn't matter if they've got a cylinder. I've been cylindered a lot of times doing that. It's just fun to see. So these 2 cards, like, that's the only reason Future Fusion's here is for the Overdragon. It's just fun to see huge numbers. That's the only purpose there. It's not to make the deck better and to win more games. It's because I like to see huge numbers occasionally. So that's my deck, and we'll go ahead and play a couple games and show you how it plays out. So we got a Cyber Dragon, a Power Bond. Ooh, that's a pretty good starting hand. So we'll probably Power Bond right away. And we'll probably throw down our Cyber Dragon core and just go right into Power Bond. If he doesn't have anything to stop us, we can actually end the game right there. Because we will use our We will power bond this guy right here, our Chimera Tech Rampage, and we'll use his effect to get 3 attacks. And well, okay. Quite possibly have won the game here. Draw a card. We'll start with a Cyber Dragon Core. He's got hand traps or something. We'll see what happens. Go ahead and start with our core. And we'll grab a Cyber Emergency just for an emergency. And then we will go right into Power Bond. Using, oh. Right there. Take our Rampage. There's Cyber Dragon. Base up attack position right in the center. And his effect is going to let us clear those traps. Yes, please. Get rid of his face down first. And then we'll go with this one. We're going to activate this guy's effect. We'll always send one of these hurts first, since that'll let us do a hurts, and then we'll just do a veer here. But the hurts will let us actually, yeah. Instead of a veer, we'll go with a Nasher here, and then that hurts will just let us grab that Nasher. Grab the Nasher, and we'll hang on to that and see what happens here. We'll move right into the battle phase. So this guy has 3 attacks. I'm gonna take that out. Oh, it looks like he's deciding. Let's see. Your opponent has 4 more or less cards in their hand. This not declared a tap. Okay. So this is actually just a 1-turn kill. One attack again and in the game. Alright, pretty decent hand. We did get our Future Fusion, so we will try and set that up. Just activate that right away. Probably just set this as a defense here in our turn. The activation of all white monster effects cannot be negated. Alright, that is no threat to us at all. It's actually helpful. Cannot attack directly or attack monsters in extra monster zone or affected by monsters' effects activated in the extra zone. Cannot be destroyed by battle with monsters in the extra monster zone. No big deal there. What about this one? Tribute this card, increase levels of Cypher monsters. Okay. Probably just lightning storming and clear that backfield right away. Oh, kill the attack zone then. These count as machines. No, they're cybers. This one's a machine though, so actually we might use it as tribute. I will activate Cyber Hurts. Grab my other Cyber Dragon. Alright, let's see what we got. Got Core. we're just gonna go ahead and mill most of our deck here. Get us a Cyber Nasher. And then here's where we pick as many as we want, and we're actually gonna pick all of them. However, I'm not sure we'll get to do this since I believe we might be able to end it this turn. It will activate Hertz. We're going to use Hertz to grab us a Nasher. You're going to special summon our Cyber Dragon. Face up attack. And we are going to also special summon Nasher here. Now let's go ahead and get our core first. That will give us a way to fusion summon. And actually we'll take this, and you know, I think we'll go for an Elton in this turn actually. We got a pretty strong Elton. So first things first, let's go ahead and grab that Elton. And let's see, if we want to do anything else, I actually might hang on to the Nasher here after Elton. So let's go ahead and just go right away. Let's go ahead and we'll get us a Dre out real quick. The whole purpose of this is just to get him in the graveyard. And then we will just go ahead and special summon Elton right away. He has 8,000. We can also activate our Nasher. Put that in the graveyard. Put him in defense. Then our Nasher will bring our Cyber Dragon out just as backup. We'll go right to battle phase and end the game here.